Shaman stonks are way up. Oh my god, guys, this new blue post released by Blizzard earlier this morning absolutely changes the way we play the game, in PvE particularly, but it literally changes the way we think about the raids, and it changes the way we move through the raids. Now, there's some interesting things, and I'll just get into all of it right now. So the first thing they mentioned is a new buff audit system. Basically, they are tracking where a lot of people were able to snapshot different buffs and abilities on the beta or on the PTR build and switch to a different spec and keep those buffs rolling for a while. Something like Unholy Frenzy, or what used to be known as Hysteria for a Blood Decay, using this, or even using something like Dancing Rune Weapon, then swapping over to Frost as you're pulling a boss. And for the first like 20 seconds, you have this crazy buff because you have these abilities that are from a different spec. Now, you can't do this. There is a buff check system, the audit system, that will now stop you guys basically from being able to do things like this. Also, earlier on in the beta build, you were able to summon your permanent ghoul in the Unholy Tree and then switch to Frost, and you could keep up your ghoul. This is just examples for Death Knight so that you can understand basically what it's like, but basically they are going to be checking things like that. So you no longer can change specs mid-raid and try to keep specific buffs, especially very strong buffs, from other people. Now, they do actually have in place a reason for us to be able to still like high five other people. Well, as you're flying by someone randomly in the open world, and if you do buff them, or if you individually buff people, something like Power Word Fort or Arcane Intellect is their examples, then if you change specs, these single target buffs won't go away. You could sort of get around this buff audit system by single buffing some people. Also, Paladins, if you have improved blessings, it means you probably could bless people and then switch specs. They might want to build in a system to check and actually kind of adjust so that those buffs don't snapshot, but realistically, you're probably going to have enough Paladins to have the specs anyways. The crazy thing that they are doing is giving long cooldowns, actual resets on bosses. What they're saying is one of the more arduous things is after you fight a boss, if you were wiped to something like Muru in Sunwell progression, then you would have to sit there and wait for your Bloodlust to come off of cooldown. Well, they are making it so that at the end of every single boss encounter, all of your CDs past 2 minutes are instantly becoming off of cooldown, with the exception of some such as Reincarnation, Ritual of Doom, Astral Recall, and Lay on Hands. There's probably going to be more specifics added to this exception list, but this is a huge change. That means you have Bloodlust up on every single boss encounter. So you're no longer planning your routes throughout the raid to see when you can Bloodlust and timing them out particularly so that your absolute route in a speed run is always around your Bloodlust. You no longer have to worry about that because you can always get your CDs off right as you start a boss. For some classes, this is also huge. Things like Recklessness, Army of the Dead, any sort of 3-minute cooldown like Summon Gargoyle or Adrenaline Rush. Zyrene actually pointed out if a boss is slightly over 3 minutes and you get 2 uses of Adrenaline Rush or 2 uses of Summon Gargoyle on the boss, then it'll instantly be snap back up right on the next trash pack right after you kill the boss. So right after you use the second use of this big CD, it'll instantly be back up again. And this is the same thing for Bloodlust. You actually could see a lot of guilds doing the thing that you see in retail, where guilds will go in and actually just reset a boss really quickly, maybe send someone in and die, or have a hunter shoot it and feign death like we do reset bosses in Sunwell. And if you do this, it means everybody loses their Sarthe debuff, everybody gets their cooldowns back. This is going to be a huge change in the way we play the game. And then the last thing in the blue post today is that the exhaustion or Sarthe debuff will stay with you through death. It will persist with you through death, and then it will go away at the end of the boss fight. Now, this is something that I think is really good for them to actually have noted. Importantly, this is because a lot of people were planning on getting bloodlusted, killing themselves so that the buff drops, having a soul stone on themselves, and then instantly getting bloodlusted again. It was going to cause a lot of parse cheesing, and I think Blizzard is actually looking out for this. This is something we talked about on our last podcast. If you guys missed it, the Mage Deep Dive did come out this week. Also, I did release the actual dual wield unholy guide earlier this morning. So if you want to check either of those out, check them out somewhere on the channel. But this is a crazy, crazy blue post, and it is an amazing way to start the day. Some new information from Blizzard. I, for one, am really curious to see what actual classes have certain buffs and certain cooldowns kind of restricted. There's gonna be kind of like a war in the forums probably, where other classes are gonna argue that we need to have our lay on hands, or we need DSAC up at all times or something like that. That's just paladins, but like recklessness is going to happen all the time. It's a lot weaker now, but you're always going to be able to wreck. Adrenaline rush of the 3-minute CD, summon gargoyle. These are just, it's going to be crazy, guys. With that being said, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you guys all on the beta. I'll keep you updated with new information as it comes.